What is up, y'all? It's your girl Jazz from All That Jazz, and I'm coming to talk to you guys today about confidence. So, I feel like there's so much that goes into confidence, but I guess I will mostly talk about number one, I think where it comes from, and number two, how you deal with a world of people who I think are greatly lacking in it. So, first and foremost, I think that I'm no expert, but I do feel like I've had or developed a very strong sense of confidence over the years. And I think that it's not from your conventional means, but I think it really, truly is about what's within. So I feel like confidence, number one, comes from a strong sense of knowing. And I feel like that's the reason why so many people struggle with confidence or the lack thereof it because they do not know themselves. Now, I think that the ultimate way to really know who you are, what your strengths, your giftings are, and literally why God has created you, it goes back to you having a relationship with God. And I feel like when you do not have that, you greatly struggle in that area because you wonder to yourself constantly. You're looking and you visibly can see other people's gifts, can see their strengths, but you struggle to see your own because half of the time you're not looking, or you downplay what actually are strengths and giftings of your own because it's something that comes so naturally to you. So you don't really recognize it as a gift that it actually is. So you're constantly looking at other people because you're able to see what's going on with them, but you are not able to see really what's going on with yourself. And so I think that when it comes to being confident, the largest component, in my opinion, is knowledge of yourself. Having a knowledge and understanding of what you're gifted at, where your strong suits are, and even having a strong understanding of what your weaknesses are. And I think that there are a lot of people who, when you can describe what your strengths are, there are a lot of people who will take that and think that you're being cocky. They think that you're arrogant. A lot of people conflate confidence with arrogance when that's not the case. So, for example, I could easily say that over the course of my life, I've had certain strengths, one of which is the very reason why I'm on this camera speaking to you right now. I literally got this compliment earlier today at my job. I had a leadership training conference, and I'm very quiet when you first meet me. I don't always have a lot to, not even just when you first meet me, in general. Like, my family could tell you that I have days where I'm very talkative, or maybe subjects that I can be really talkative about. But more than not, especially initially when you're first meeting me, I don't really have a lot to say. Most of the time I'm contemplating, if I'm even going to speak in that environment at all. But when I eventually do speak, which is what happened today, I was quiet at first. I think, she may have thought that I was very shy. And, immediately I could tell she was kind of sizing me up and thinking like, oh, she's shy, she's quiet, she doesn't really know what to say. But when I actually felt like I had something to contribute, the very first word or phrase that she used to describe me was, "You're very well spoken." Me knowing that there are people who speak better than I do, there are people who speak more often than I do and are better communicators than me. None of that am I in disagreement with. But what I am saying is this: there is a way that I speak and have spoken over the course of my life that I can make, a basic phrase sound different, sound better, and well put together. I think that is, like, at the root of it, that's the definition of what it means to be well spoken. You speak in a way that sounds good. And so when it comes to presentation or writing music or presenting words in a package that sounds good, that's one of the gifts that I have, is being well spoken. I don't always think that means the same thing as being a good communicator. I think someone who's a good communicator, I think someone who is well spoken can be a good communicator, but I don't always think those two are the same things. Because I know some people that are very to the point and they communicate super effectively. It just doesn't sound as good. So Nonetheless, though, that's a gift of mine, and it's something that I've recognized for a really long time, and literally got a compliment on that today. And that's the reason why I'm in front of this camera. That's also why I don't paint, because I don't have a lot of natural, like artistic ability in that way. You won't catch me drawing, you won't catch me painting. You will not find me doing architectural, drawings and things like that. I'm not heavily mathematic, those are not my skill sets. And I don't feel threatened when I'm around people who do display those skill sets, because that's theirs to have. And so I think that that's a large part of confidence, is really being able to identify where are your strengths, and subsequently where are your weaknesses. But a lot of the times it's because when you recognize where you're weak, then you realize, oh, this is what I need this person for. And so now it creates collaboration as opposed to competition. And that is such a huge component of being confident, and not constantly feeling like you have to size someone else up and measure up to what they do. And even if someone else is strong in the area that you are, they're still not going to deliver a message the way that you would. So I really feel like confidence comes down to ultimately recognizing I am in my own lane, and I was created for the very specific purpose that God made me. And He finds glory in my uniqueness. Something that the Lord showed me years ago, and it really grounds how I think about a lot of things, but especially when it comes to confidence. There is nothing that was made without a purpose. Something even as simple as a paperclip has a very unique and specific purpose by which it was created. If that is how all of man-made creations are made, how much more our intentional God? So if He put this time, this attention, and this detail into creating you, then surely He put something in you that is only in you. There might be types of what you have in other people, but there's something unique that He only made in you. And I think that knowing that gives me confidence. Like, it's not something I had to work at or toward. It's something I had to grow to understand. But it's not something I had to manufacture, because it was already created within me. God created me with purpose, point blank. And if He did that for me, He's done that for you. And that to me is such a huge component of being a confident individual, is understanding that I was made with a purpose. And that gives me purpose. But I think now when it comes to translating that over and dealing with people who are struggling with insecurities and struggling with being insecure as a whole, now I think what needs to be considered is that, number one, most of the time these people do not know what their strengths are. And it's actually helpful when you are able to help them and identify, hey, I noticed that you're really good at keeping organized. Hey, I noticed that you're really good at engaging everyone. Not everyone has that ability. Some people only work well with certain types of personalities, but you have an ability to engage with everyone. And sometimes it takes them having to see and it being pointed out to them, this is where you're strong. This is a really good asset that you bring to the situation. Sometimes it takes that for people to recognize, oh, I'm actually good at things. And then the other is, let's just be honest. Maybe we do have areas that we need to grow, improve, and strengthen. Now, if it's not that you weren't already given this talent, this skill, this ability, sometimes the lack of confidence could be coming from something that you refuse to develop. So now you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do to develop the thing that is lacking? For example, let's say you're not confident when it comes to your looks. You're not confident with the current weight that you're at. What are you going to do to develop greater confidence in that area? Because if it's something that you don't already have, how do you get it? And if it is something that you can't necessarily attain, maybe it's the ability to draw, Not everyone is musically inclined or artistically inclined. That's okay. If you want it bad enough, you can have someone teach you the skill, or you can decide that, hey, maybe that's not where I'm gifted, but let me operate in the areas where I am. So I just think that when it comes to confidence overall, there's a lot that goes into it, but I think the number one component is, how well do you know yourself? And I think most people don't, that I listen to and I like kind of observe, I don't think a lot of people take the time to think and think about their lives. What have people said about me throughout the course of my life? What am I constantly contributing in the workplace that I'm not required to? Maybe it's a positive attitude. Maybe it's organization. What do people constantly come to you for? Do people come to you for fashion advice, cooking advice, relational advice? Like, what do people come to you for? And I think that's usually a good indication of where your strengths are. And when you look at that, you'll realize, wait a minute, I have a reason to be confident. Number one, because God has made me. And there's nothing that God has made that was a mistake. Secondly, all that he made was good, and he placed his goodness in it. Third of all, because you were created for a purpose. You're not purposeless. And so that in itself should give you some vigor to say, all right, I have purpose. There's use for why I'm here on the earth and why I'm here in the specific sector of the environment that I'm in. And then fourthly, if there's a lack of improvement in areas that you want to be more confident, like I said, it could be losing weight, it could be appearance, it could be your people skills, it could be whatever, then you have the opportunity to change that. So I think that if you stay in a place where you're insecure, you're choosing to be. And the reality is that you don't have to stay insecure. And I think that insecurity is the number one issue that people face. It's what's at the root of jealousy and enviousness. It comes down to you're insecure and you're not in a place where you're willing to tackle the areas where you could be better or do better. And it's available to you just as much as it is to any and everyone else. So, and when you're a really confident person, you do tend to encounter quite a few insecure people, because I think that insecure people really look at secure people and they're intrigued by them. They're intrigued by their lack of need to prove. They're intrigued by their 10 toes down. There's something in a confident person. They do stand 10 toes down, whether that's on their values, whether that's in their belief, whatever it is. Confidence doesn't move. It's kind of like, I'm not budging because this is where I'm at. And it's not abrasive, but it is powerful. And I think that, here I am going on this whole rant, but I think there's something about that is magnetic. That when you see that, it draws you in and it makes you say, well, how can I be that way? And if we're not careful, admiration is the beginning of envy. Because when you look at something from a distance and you admire it, as you get closer to it and you feel like you can attain that, then the feelings of envy start to take over. And so I've noticed that I would actually explain myself or say that I would be a pretty confident person. I don't think that I'm arrogant, where I recognize there's a lot of areas where I can grow. But I think that my overall feeling about myself is this: I might not always like where I am. That could be financially, that could be right now. I have financial goals, I have health related goals, I have goals related to my walk with God. I have lots of goals. I have personality goals that I'm I would like to develop in these areas. So I might not where I am, but at the end of the day, I like who I am. And I think that's confidence. I'm not in internal battle and strife with the individual that I am. So my results right now are different than they were a year ago. And hopefully, if I continue on track, my results will be different a year from now, Lord willing, than they are in this moment. But who I am, I like her. And so I just encourage you, if you're in a place where you don't feel that way, first and foremost, go to God about what you're feeling and ask him, like, Lord, why am I not liking who you've made me to be? Are there things I need to forgive myself for? Are there areas where I need to change my habits so that I can like who I am? And then at the end of it all, Lord, will you help me to like the person that you've created me to be? To like my laugh, funny as it might be, to like my face, to like my body, to like my hair, to like my personality, whatever else. To not constantly look at what someone else has and covet it and say it's better, but to say I like what I have too. And so, yeah, if I could leave you with nothing else, it'd be this. That hopefully you can get to a point someday and someday soon that you'll say, I might not like where I am. And hopefully you'll be there too, where you'll say, I like where I'm at. I like the financial decisions I've made and the health related decisions I've made and so on and so forth. But even if you could say, hey, I see areas of improvement that are needed. I may not like where I am, but I like who I am. Sam, I am. I'm just joking. But yeah, thank you for tuning in for this here rant today. I have many more of those coming at All That Jazz. Peace out.